Well, what's up, LifeSpring? I'm going to do something today that I'm not sure I've ever done, but I'm going to talk about NC State football in a way that actually makes a really good spiritual point. And by the way, if you happen to be a North Carolina fan, this has nothing to do, and I'm not going to hang it over your head or beat you over the head with the fact that we did beat y'all the other night. This is not about that at all. But the way State finished their season does make a really, really good spiritual point. So if you're not interested in football, just hang with the illustration. If you are and you're a State fan, let's just relive the season for a moment. State starts out the first part of the season 3-2, big offensive struggles, and they switch quarterbacks and such. The next two games, they go 1-1 and are completely destroyed by the Duke Blue Devils. At that point in the season, NC State was 4-3, and there were a lot of us, and by us I mean North Carolina State fans, that we weren't really sure if we would win another game the rest of the year. Things looked very, very bleak. I was thinking we would probably end up 4-8, 5-7, something like that. But then something very not normal, at least over decades of being an NC State fan, happened. State beat Clemson at home. They turned around again and they beat Miami, which was completely shocking. And that ran our record to 6-3. We were now bowl eligible. And then the guy that had become our starting quarterback opted to sit the rest of the year to preserve his red shirt. Could have been very deflating, could have been very distracting, but NC State, to their credit, came out the next 3 weekends and they beat Wake Forest in Winston-Salem. They beat Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, and then they finished off the year by beating UNC at home to finish 9-3. And if Florida State beats Louisville pretty handily, there's a chance NC State will end up in a New Year's Six bowl, which 7 weeks ago would have been completely out of the realm of possibility. Here's the point in that. State could have folded early in the year. They could have quit. But even in the face of several difficult moments, they kept going. And one of State's linebackers, Peyton Wilson, made a remark about the culture that Coach Dave Doeren has developed in Raleigh. It's one that is tenacious. It's one that's gritty. It's one that does not quit. So how does this have anything to do with any spiritual principle at all? Well, we just finished up a series called All In, and we talked a lot about what it looks like to live an all-in life for Jesus. But here's the thing about that. It can be exhausting to do that. Like to give of yourself completely and totally every single day. It can be exhausting, especially when there are moments, and there will be moments, where it feels like this is not working, this is not paying off. What is the point? So with that in mind, Paul writes this in Galatians chapter 6. It's verse 9, and this has been honestly one of the most sweet verses to me over the last 7 years. But he says this: let us not become weary in doing good. Now, why would Paul have to tell us not to become weary in doing good? If you're hearing screams, it's my children in the other part of the house. They're being supervised by their mom, just to be clear. So they're not unsupervised. Why would we have to be told not to become weary? Well, because it can often be wearying to continue to do good. It can often be wearying, tiring to do the right thing when it feels like there's no payoff. And in fact, sometimes when it feels like we're moving backwards. So Paul says, let us not grow weary. Let's not become weary in doing good. And then what he says next is so important. He says, for at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. In other words, and right before this, he has said, hey, you reap what you sow. And so, in other words, what Paul is saying here is, hey, if you continue doing the right thing, if you continue honoring God with your life, if you continue being all in following Jesus, at some point, you're going to see fruit from that. At some point, you're going to see results. Now, I think there are some times, and I think even when we do see some measure of results here on earth, I don't think any of us will see the full scale of it until we see it through the lens of eternity when we go home to be with Jesus. But the promise that Scripture makes to us is that if we keep doing what God calls us to do, we will reap a harvest if we don't give up. And therein lies the tension, because the tension when things are hard is to throw in the towel, give up, it's not working, it's hard, and to just quit. Much like I think it would have been very easy for NC State when they were 3-2 and then 4-3 and things are just not working out, just to kind of fold, like a friend of mine says, like a wet paper towel. And that's I think the tension many of us either are at or will be at, is things get hard and it's like, you know what, this is really tough. I'm not sure I can keep going. And in those moments, Scripture reminds us, don't get weary in doing good. Keep moving forward. Take just one more step today and then do it again tomorrow. And keep doing that. Keep doing the right thing. Keep honoring God. And if you do that, we will see God do a great work in and through our lives if we don't give up. So, wherever you are today, whether it's, man, you're just trying to develop a really close walk with Jesus, or you're trying to create a Christ-centered home in your marriage and with your kids, or you're trying to honor God with your finances through generosity and getting out of debt, if you're working through overcoming depression, anxiety, and addiction, whatever it may be, when it gets tough, to quote another NC State guy, Jim Valvano, never, ever give up. Don't give up. Keep going, because at the right time, we'll reap a harvest. We'll see God working into our lives if we don't give up. So I hope that's inspiring for you today. I hope it encourages you. This coming Sunday, we will start a brand new series called Unwrapped. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be super challenging, and I can't wait. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all Sunday.